Hey Playas, how you doing? Welcome back to Playas Guide. This episode of Playas Guide, I'm going to be covering the Xbox 360 and the current state of collecting for that console. Let's head over to price charting and take a look at what exactly is going on with the Xbox 360. Okay, so I do want to mention here that I'll be looking at CIB North American games. So I'm not going to be including special editions, different bundles or collector's editions or whatever. Like here we have Fallout 3 Survival Edition. Whatever these different editions are, the day one editions, Player's Choice editions, I'm just covering basic regular release games that are CIB here. Also, if you are a collector and you collect for other consoles as well as this console, please consider joining the Playas Guide Discord. And also, if you have any, advice, comments, or insight into Xbox 360 collecting, please share it in the community by commenting down below. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at a few here of the more desirable and expensive games right here. So Ncaa Football 14. We've known about this one a lot, and it's been all over the place, so it'll be interesting to see. I think the local game store might have a copy or two of this game. It is a game that was perceived as being very rare, and then as more people caught on that this game was rare, we saw more and more copies surface, which has really messed with the price. I talked about this previously in another video. So the game never dropped too low. I think this was the last of the Ncaa Football games here. I've heard they might be renewing that license. But anyways, I'm not going to get too much into the details of what makes all of these games rare. I have another video for that you could check out. I'll link it at the end of this one. But yeah, people caught on. The game went up to about $100 game. Look, it says it's over $100 here on price charting. I'm going to say about $100 because that's what I saw it for at game stores and conventions and places at this time. Then, like I said, people caught on and the price dropped back down. Now, this is what we see for just about every game here, March, April 2020. Any of the popular games, hidden gems, and a lot of rare games for different consoles, anything with any desirability at all, basically skyrocketed. It doubled in price at this time because of the pandemic, stimulus checks, yada, yada, yada. I feel like a broken record saying this over and over again because it's been mentioned in just about every analysis video that I've done. But if you haven't seen any of those, that's why I'm mentioning it here again. It's a trend that we're going to see reoccurring across every console, although the Wii did have a few that dropped. But that's another video. Please check out all the state of videos if you just want to find out about the current state of different consoles and the games for them and where the prices are at without having to, go through and, find out for yourself. You'll get a pretty good impression of the market. So yeah, jumped right back up. What did it drop down to? About $65 here. Jumped up, more than doubled in price. Started to drop down. We saw this, but a lot of games didn't drop down all the way, and then they started to go back up. But this one took a curve and dropped back down again. Now it's climbing back up. I think this one's going to be up and down for a while, guys, because people are looking out for this game. I'm looking out for this game too. Like if I see this game at a thrift store, I know it's going to be no more than $4, right? Because they're going to price it like every other sports game. Even some game stores, flea markets, wherever, where people resell these games, they may not be wise to a game like this. So, keep your eyes open. You might snag yourself a copy. I'm sure some of you watching have, and you can resell it. Like, I would probably resell it. Well, that's hard to say. I end up hanging on to a lot of this stuff, even though I don't, I'm not going for a complete 360 collection or anything. I do end up, buying with the intention of reselling. And then I end up holding on to it unless it's a double. But, not a bad one if you pick it up for a couple bucks and you're able to flip it and buy something, that you really want to play. But a huge score if you're a 360 collector. El Chavo Cart. So this one, I believe, is the rarest Xbox 360 game. And I think a lot of other people think that too. So it had a bit of a premium there because it was recognized, I think, by a lot of collectors, and maybe still is, as being the rarest, within the parameters I said, North American non-special edition CIB game. And here we see it dipped here, but this was early on for 360 collecting. 2018's early on. That's the low. 2018 was, the value bin days for the 360, even some of 2019 at the beginning. But towards the end of 2019 and early 2020 is where we see a lot of games get Steam, and again, that's just has to do with the pandemic, and people who are non-collectors know that video games shot up at this time, so it's no secret. So it climbed up, and it seems to still be gradually climbing. I think this is, the pandemic may have had an influence here, but I think this is going to be the general trend for this game, is that there could be a spike or a drop, but I think it'll just kind of gradually over time, it's going to work its way up there because it is a very rare game on the 360. So here we have a couple other games that I saw on price charting. We're getting up there in price. This one caught my eye because it's, as far as I'm aware, I didn't think this game was that rare. I thought of this game as an uncommon. But maybe people have found out, there's a lot less of these going around as, more 360 collectors have entered the market, and the demand has gone up because there's just not enough of them. But it looks like this one more so has been affected by the pandemic than anything. Although, wait, it did have an early increase here in early 2000. And the spike, it did see a spike in April and March here. And then it spiked again in the summer, which we saw for a lot of popular or hidden gem games. I'm thinking this one got hyped up. It's an uncommon game that's been hyped up. But if you're going for a complete 360 collection and you feel as though this is a rare, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Let the community know what insight you have for Operation Darkness. It's definitely a game you don't see too often. College Hoops 2K18. So this is another one that's like, on the rarity scale, maybe not in the top 10, but it has definitely jumped in price. Now this is another one. This is pandemic hype. I'm not sure why this game of all games got so much hype behind it. Again, it could be something to do with EA Sports, the College Hoops franchise. Spider-Man Web of Shadows is another one that fits into that boat. It's not that expensive of a game, but it didn't really jump too much here during the pandemic. Well, it did jump, during the pandemic, but it didn't jump in March and April of 2020. Maybe just a couple bucks here, $2 or $3 it looks like. But it has shot up, that's for sure. I have noticed some of these Spider-Man games, including some on the Wii, as well as the PS4, have gone up a little bit for the used copies. So that could just be people wanting to play this game. Saw 2 was not on my radar, but I saw it here on price charting, was demanding a premium, and I'm interested in why. I'm not sure. My theory is that it falls in line with what we've seen on the PS1 and PS2, and I think we're about to see on the PS3. We may already see a little bit of it with a few games. Is that the horror franchises. The horror games really have a cult following, and people want these games. This is one I really don't see too often either. Now that I think about it, I haven't seen this game too many times, or not. I've seen it infrequently, I should say. But the demand, I think the demand is there because of the horror genre. But we'll see what happens to this one. It certainly has seen its price jump during the pandemic. Blitz 2. Here's a hard to find game that was on my radar, and it has gone up. It looks like it saw not much of a jump here at the beginning of the pandemic, but it did over the course of last year jump up, and it came down, but not too much. This is one that will probably have some ups and downs, but will go up in value over time. So even if you paid whatever $60 for this game at the height here during the pandemic, it has dropped down, but I think it'll come back up to that price eventually. Probably sooner than later. I think more and more people are starting to get into 360 collecting and PS3 collecting because it's still pretty affordable. Like if we're looking at Chavo Cart, and I'm saying that's the rarest game and it's $100, how many other consoles are there that you're going to get the rarest game for $100? There's not many. There's not many. I'm trying to think of some, and I can't. So, maybe the Wii. Yeah, the Wii is criminally underrated right now. Great time to collect for the Wii. But yeah, 360 also still a good time. PS3, it's got some steam now, but it's a good time to get on the 360 bandwagon because you can see what some of the clear indicators here are for some of the games that are going to demand premiums and have higher values later on down the road. Raiden Fighters Aces. So this game is an uncommon game. I see it frequently at different game stores, but it's always commanded a premium. And you don't see it all the time. I see it frequently time to time, usually behind the counter. But it's that's not always the case. Not every game store is going to have a copy. It's not a super common game, but it is an uncommon game that has a lot of demand for it. The Raiden franchise in general is a great shooter franchise that, if people are into shoot 'em ups, it's one that you should consider picking up. So it has a niche market and it satisfies that niche fairly well. So we did see early spring of 2020, it was affected by the pandemic, did have a jump, and then had a second jump here about the summer of 2021, which is typical trend that we've seen here throughout this pandemic across many different consoles. And that's usually reflected in a lot of games that are desirable because they're uncommon and there's still a market for them. There's an audience that it appeals to, and that's what we're seeing here with Raiden Fighters Aces. And this one, I think, it's on the down curve right now, but it'll pop back up, and gradually over time, it will get up there. But I think it's one that's more so just going to command a premium because of how desirable it is. Okay, so we got a few more rare ones here to take a look at. We got the Black College Football Experience, and this is one that I never see. I think it's pretty rare. It has had a bit of a premium here, but otherwise it's just been on the downturn for a while now. Let's see how many copies of this have sold. Oh, wow. There's been quite a few, but not a ton. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 this past year. And 2020 saw a bundle of them sell. So maybe people have been finding copies of this game, then throwing them up on eBay. And because of the abundance, it's brought the price down. But this is one that I certainly don't see myself ever. Let me know what you guys think of this game, how often you see it in the wild or at game stores, because I don't. And, you know, if it really is that rare, now is the time to pick this one up for sure. We're looking at like $7 or $8 here for a copy of that game. F1 2014. So a lot of F1 games don't sell very well here in North America. In Europe, a little bit easier to find because they're much more popular over there. Same with the FIFA games. FIFA games are usually, you know, a bit harder to find in North America, if not rare. And rarity is, you know, goes along with this game here, F1 2014. I think 2013 is pretty hard to come by as well. This is the harder to find game, and it looks like it's always had a premium. Again, it probably appeals to a specific audience that wants this game, and it's held its value because of that. And it doesn't look like it was really affected too much by the pandemic until the beginning of 2021. It saw a bit of a jump, but it looks like it's cooled right back off to, you know, a little bit higher price still than where it was at, which, you know, it might have been on track to go from like $30 to $40 anyways without the pandemic. So I can't say the pandemic has really affected this game's value very much. But, you know, that's the state of F1 2014 on 360. Monster Jam Path of Destruction has seen nothing here but a decline, it looks like. Let's see what happened here during the early pandemic. It had a bit of value. Here's one of the games that dropped. This is rare. We don't see this happen very often. How many sales of this game were there? Oh my goodness. This is why. Tons and tons of sales. Maybe this game is not as rare as I initially perceived, but this is one of the reasons why I like to check the state of collecting, because for newer consoles like the PS3 and 360, the market isn't fully established yet. The people going for the complete sets are the ones who are probably going to be most in tune with the market, but they're also going to start to feel the effects of the market so far. So this is one maybe some of the collectors bought early on, and because it had a premium here going, you know, for a used copy, $45 or whatever, it saw a decline because people were finding this game no problem. I was just looking at the Wii copy. The Wii copy's under $10, and I have seen that one around, but this is the harder to find version of this game. Okay, so Just Dance 2019. This one kind of surprised me before that there was a demand for this game, and it looks like it's remained pretty steady. Although based on the amount of copies that we've seen here sold over the past 2 years, I don't know how rare you want to consider this game. This is another one that maybe doesn't belong on the list of, you know, top tier rare games. Time will tell with some of these games, because what could happen here is this could all dry up. You know, next year there'll be half, then 2023 there'll be half of that, and then there'll be, you know, I mean, there's a bunch of sales here, but it's not like a crazy amount like Assassin's Creed Black Flag probably has, or something like that, where hundreds of copies sold. There's maybe 20 copies here, which is still a low enough sale number to say that a game is rare in comparison to the overall library. But, you know, right now for 360 collecting, it's not looking that way. Time will tell. It's a good time to get into 360 collecting, but there's definitely a lot of speculation. Ncaa Basketball 10. We all know the deal with this one. And the rest of these NCAA games seem to be generally be hard to find, especially the last or later releases become harder to find because there is an audience that wants to play NCAA games and wants some of the most recent versions that they can get their hands on. This definitely has all the right curves for the pandemic, for an uncommon game or hard to find rare game that's desirable. This one could be a top tier 10 rarity game. I believe it was on my list of games to watch out for the 360, and should probably be on your list too. Now, right now, it's dropped way down from $100. This is a lot of hype and speculation here, though, folks. But without a doubt, it will not stay this low. It will go back up. It has seen quite a few sales here, though. Wow, even more than Just Dance. So, I don't know. The 360 is really hard to gauge right now, especially when you look at price charting with all the special editions. Stuff just kind of gets mixed in there and lost. Cabela's Big Game Hunter Pro Series. This was rare or hard to find game on the Wii U, and it's pretty uncommon on the 360 as well. I guess this game in general maybe didn't go over as well as it should have. I think it's a pretty decent game if you're into hunting games, but again, that's kind of another niche market. So let's see here. Lots of sales really for all these rare games. And now that I'm looking at this, I'm thinking that Just Dance and Monster Jam Path of Destruction maybe are, fairly rare or hard to come by, because, at this point, the 360 is just kind of working its way out of the value bin, where we're seeing some value in these games. Like this game, you probably could have found in a value bin. You might still be able to, but at a game store that knows about some of the harder to find 360 games, you're going to see it priced probably at $25 or $30. But like I said, it's still, a lot of these games can be found in value bins right now because the rarity just isn't recognized. And where it is, and people see a premium of, hey, this is a $40 game, and they're finding it in the value bin, we're seeing a lot of those get flipped right now. There's, I don't want to offend any Xbox collectors, but let's talk real here. Let's be honest with ourselves. There's more people who are wanting to collect for the Wii U and the PS3 for this generation of consoles, and the Xbox in general doesn't have quite the steam that Nintendo and Sony have. Nintendo's been around the longest, Sony's been around longer than the Xbox, so they have a fan base. Because of the loyal fan base, there's people that want to buy, history, a part of the lineage of these different game systems. And I feel as though what Microsoft is doing is, all their consoles are basically mini computers, right? We know that. But I think they're leaning more into the Game Pass and eventually more into becoming like a streaming service. And you buy their media box to watch your movies, play your games, and you're just streaming everything from this box. And I think that Microsoft will be the big one to do it. I know there's been Google Stadia, and that was a bit of a flop, but they're still trying to work on it. I haven't seen any ads for it for a while, but I think Microsoft will be the big one, the big successful company who is able to pull it off first. And because of that, that's why a lot of the physical games, Xbox doesn't have the physical market of collectors like Nintendo does. For example, Nintendo has a huge fan base of collectors, and Sony's gotten in on that too. But also because they've been around a while, and PS1, PS2's really got some steam now. That's just it. Whereas the Microsoft Xbox fans are, I think, in my opinion, more willing to embrace digital and streaming than Nintendo or Sony fans. That's not to say that there aren't people that love physical on Xbox or that don't want streaming on the Nintendo console or digital on Sony console. That's just what I've seen from different gamers that I game with and talk to throughout different communities. I also feel that way too myself. So we got one more game here, and this is one that I've felt has been underrated and I never see it. That's Asterix Olympic Games, and that's because this is like a comic book strip cartoon character that is a lot more popular in Europe. In North America, we know about them. Some of us do. But, at this point in time, I don't know really what was going on with Asterix that would have grabbed people's attention in the North American market. And I don't think it really did. It's not a game I was aware of when it launched or for years. Until I was looking into what Xbox 360 games are rare. I found out about this one, and in the comments of the video I did discussing this game, the same case for several other people. So it had a spike there. I don't know why. I wasn't really paying attention in 2017, 2018, 19. I was paying attention to what games were rare on the 360, and this is one that hasn't had too many sales and has commanded a premium in comparison to the other rare games that we've looked at or hard to find games. And it wasn't so much affected by the pandemic here early on, but did see a price jump and increase that seems to have been pretty stable here. It dips a bit. This dip we're seeing everywhere, but we're also starting to see a little bit of an uptick in people purchasing games too again. So, we'll see where it goes. At the end of the year, I'm going to do an overall video game market analysis, and I'm going to take in everything that we've seen here for all the different consoles during this State of series. So if you're not subscribed to Playas Guide, please consider doing so and checking out that video when it comes out. I'm also going to do a recap of 2021 and what happened, as well as predictions for next year, and a bunch of other stuff to do with retro gaming and video game collecting. Again, there's a Playas Guide Discord, and you could find Playas Guide on Instagram and Twitter. Follow us over there, and on Twitch. There's a Twitch channel where I have retro streamers nearly every day of the week. So if you're on Twitch and you're looking for something to watch, check out our retro community over there. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.